The Indianapolis Colts can make the Super Bowl next year if they make these 5 moves, and the last move is the most important move if the Colts want to make their first Super Bowl since Peyton Manning was at quarterback in 2009. If you would have told me after week 11 last year that this team made the Super Bowl, I wouldn't have been surprised. An 8-2 start, the best offense in football, Daniel Jones playing great, Jonathan Taylor having a historic start, all the weapons and offensive line playing well. Then you trade for Sauce Gardner. This team was ready to make a run down the stretch. However, injuries and a brutal schedule derailed that hot start, losing 7 straight to end the year. And now, without a first-round pick in the 2026 draft because of the Sauce trade, the Colts are in a tough spot this offseason. But they have moves they can make to get this team back into position to compete for a Super Bowl in 2026. So without further ado, the first move the Indianapolis Colts need to make if they want to compete for a Super Bowl in 2026, you got to re-sign that quarterback Daniel Jones and that wide receiver 1 in Alec Pierce in free agency. I'm combining these 2 moves into one because of how important both of these guys were to the offense last season. We obviously saw Jones's resurgence last year. I knew the Colts had a good supporting cast to succeed before the season last year, but I thought before the season that Daniel Jones was the worst starting quarterback in football. He obviously proved me unbelievably wrong. He looked like a top 10 quarterback before breaking his leg and then tearing his Achilles, a couple of major lower body injuries for him to add on to that ACL tear he suffered in 2023. Those lower body injuries starting to pile up makes me nervous, no doubt about it. And quarterbacks the next year off an Achilles are often not the same. We've seen in recent years Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins come back and not be the same quarterbacks that they were before the Achilles. And because Jones relies so much on his legs in the scramble drill and quarterback sneaks and other design runs, it is a huge concern. However, it's a risk that you have to take if you're the Indianapolis Colts. Ask the Minnesota Vikings how it works out, thinking you can just do better at the quarterback position and letting a guy go who's shown he can have success in your system. Speaking of Sam Darnold, I believe that's a similar contract to what we can expect from the upcoming Daniel Jones deal. Darnold got 3 years for $100 million with 55 guaranteed, and I'd bet Jones gets even less than that considering he's coming off a major injury, and since he's already had a nice payday from the Giants as well. I'd also bet that Jones would be willing to take a little bit less. The Colts should want to backload this contract, have Jones take a lower cap hit in year 1 and then higher in the years after that to give themselves more space to make more moves this year. Either way, both Jones and the Colts should want this relationship to continue. They both know the grass ain't greener on the other side. Let's just make this work. Now, getting Alec Pierce back is going to be tougher considering he just had a career year. Pierce was the wide receiver 1 for the Colts last year, missing 2 games, but still having his first 1,000-yard season of his career, and he did so on just 47 catches. That's the fewest catches to reach 1,000 yards since Deshaun Jackson in 2010. What all that means is this guy is one of the best deep threats in the league. At 6'3", 211 pounds, 4.4 speed, 25 years old, Pierce led the NFL in yards per catch each of the last 2 seasons, and we saw his and Jones' connection on those deep throws early and often last year. This guy's going to be a hot commodity in free agency. I've already seen him linked to the Tennessee Titans, the Las Vegas Raiders, the Cleveland Browns, and the Buffalo Bills. A lot of wide receiver needy teams, some of those with a ton of cap space, and Spot Track has his market value at $20 million a year. This man is going to get paid. And if you're the Colts, you got to pay him. He might take less for the security of staying in Indy as opposed to going to unknown situations like Vegas, Cleveland, or Tennessee. And there's been rumors about potentially franchising him or Daniel Jones, but you're going to have to pay him either way. Let's call it 3 years, $65 million for Pierce to get the job done because he is a piece the Indianapolis Colts cannot afford to lose. But a couple pieces the Colts can afford to lose and need to afford to lose because I currently just put this team who has $34 million in cap space as of now over the cap by at least $10 million depending on how that Jones deal turns out. So my second move to get the Colts to the Super Bowl is by cutting both Michael Pittman Jr. and Zaire Franklin. Now, I'm not saying either of these guys are bad players. Michael Pittman's reliable. He doesn't miss games. He's a big, secure target. The issue with him is he's $29 million against the cap if you keep him next year. And to me, he's probably the 3rd best wide receiver on this team at this point behind Pierce and Josh Downs. And if you cut him, you save $24 million against the cap next year. To me, the only reason you wouldn't cut him is because your wide receiver core gets thin if you do it. However, the Colts have drafted wide receiver very well in recent years, and I think they have enough weapons to make up for the loss of Pittman. If all else fails, we just see more targets for Alec Pierce, more targets for Josh Downs, and for Tyler Warren. That works for me. So even though Pittman's been solid, I think he's got to go. And so does Zaire Franklin. Just looking at the raw tackle numbers, he was one of the league's best linebackers from 22 to 24. These are his tackle numbers. 167 tackles in 2022, 4th most in football. 179 in 2023, 2nd most in football. And then 173 tackles in 2024. That was the most in football. But this year, those numbers all went down, and where he's still a solid run defender, he is awful in pass coverage. And this year per PFF, he graded 87th out of 88 qualifying linebackers in football. That is awful. Plus, this is a really good linebacker class in the NFL draft this year. You can find a replacement for that production, and you could save $5.7 million by cutting them. Sorry, Zaire, you got to go too. Now, a couple guys whose production you cannot replace is where my third move for the Colts to make the Super Bowl next year comes in. We're going to extend Jonathan Taylor and Quentin Nelson. Maybe the two best players on your roster. Locking them up for even longer seems like the smart thing to do either way, but if you extend Jonathan Taylor, that creates $8.6 million in cap space, and extending Quentin Nelson creates $13.3 million in cap space. Another basically $22 million just by locking up your best players for even longer. Again, maybe that hurts you down the road, but this is a win now team. That's been made clear by the front office and owner Carly Gordon-Ursay, so let's make some more win now moves. You could also restructure and or add void years to left tackle Bernard Ryman, defensive tackle Grover Stewart, and defensive tackle DeForest Buckner if they wanted to add additional cap space. Flat out cutting Grover Stewart would save them $13 million, which I think is also on the table for the Colts. But just with these extensions and these cuts that we did officially, we saved $50+ million on the cap. Now we're back up to $40 million to spend. So let's spend some more goddamn money. The fourth move we're making to get the Indianapolis Colts to the Super Bowl in 2026 is by spending some of that money in free agency. We're going to go get defensive tackle John Franklin Myers and defensive end Trey Hendrickson. The Colts showed us they're all in last year, didn't they? They might as well keep going all in. Trey Hendrickson played in Colts defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo's scheme in Cincinnati. It only makes sense as a fit for Hendrickson, and it makes sense for the Colts because they need edge help. So to have a player that will immediately be able to fit the system is extremely valuable. They're going to have to pay up, though. $25 million a year for 3 years at least, but a guy that can get you double-digit sacks in a win-now window is a must-have for the Colts. And Franklin Myers was a part of one of the best defenses in football last year in Denver. He's been one of the most underrated defensive linemen in football as well. 7 sacks in each of the last 2 seasons. He had the 8th best pass rush win rate among interior players last season as well, and he was very valuable to that Denver defense as well in the middle, and he was good with the Jets the years before that as well. You combine him and Trey Hendrickson on that defensive line, that unit becomes a big strength for this Colts team and gets them a step closer to the Super Bowl. And before I get to my fifth and final move that gets the Colts to the Super Bowl in 2026, if you could do me a big favor and subscribe to the channel, that would be outstanding. I would appreciate it. We just reached over 1,000 subscribers. So thank you guys for that. That's absolutely amazing. We appreciate all of you. And we have content like this coming all off season long, getting you guys ready for free agency and the draft. So if that sounds good to you, click the subscribe button and we will love you forever. Now to my final move that gets the Indianapolis Colts to the Super Bowl next season. We are going to the NFL draft, and that is by absolutely nailing the 2026 NFL draft. This is how you really rebuild a team and how championship teams become championship teams. Hitting these picks, not just in the first round, but these mid to late round picks are crucial. Ask the 2 best teams in football from last year, the Seattle Seahawks and the Los Angeles Rams. They've done that for years, and now they're in a tremendous spot to compete for years to come. Now, under this plan, I'm letting right tackle Braden Smith walk in free agency because I believe Jalen Travis, the 2025 4th round pick tackle, can come in and play solid just as he did to finish last season. Other than that, offensively, they really don't need much. Maybe one more wide receiver later in the draft because we let go of Michael Pittman, but they're set at pretty much every single spot on offense. So this is going to be a majority defense draft. And we're going to address all levels of this defense. Like I said earlier, there's no first round pick because of the Sauce Gardner trade. So we're going to start midway through the 2nd round of the draft at the 47th overall pick, where I will be selecting Dante Corleone, the defensive tackle out of Cincinnati, adding to that defensive line depth that we've seen how important it is come playoff time, especially this season. As for Corleone, he's on Bruce Feldman's freaks list, which means he's got unreal power and is super quick and agile for our 330-pound man as well. And when you have that combination of speed and power, that is going to do you extremely well at the next level. He's not without concerns. That's why you may get him in round 2. He needs to refine his pass rush moves. He has weight issues at times, and he's got some medical red flags in there too. But at mid-2nd round, that's great value. Plus, you put him next to DeForest Buckner and just let him work. In the 3rd round now, I am going with Jacob Rodriguez, the linebacker out of Texas Tech. I love everything about Rodriguez besides his straight line speed. He's a little bit slow, might get him exposed in coverage at times, but everything else you want in a linebacker is there. He is just always in the right spot and making a play. His football IQ is off the charts. He's a playmaker. He's a leader. He probably could have won the Heisman last year, if we're being honest. I want Jacob Rodriguez on my team. If the speed concerns you, this linebacker class is deep though, so you could pick a different linebacker. I think there's a ton of impact guys that can come in and be immediate contributors for NFL teams, but Jacob Rodriguez is my favorite. I want the Colts to draft Jacob Rodriguez. In the 4th round, I got Malik Mohammed, the cornerback out of Texas. He's a very versatile zone corner, can play pretty much wherever you want him to. I think he'd be a nice chess piece for this Lou Anarumo defense. In the 5th round, I took Jacoby Lane, the wide receiver out of USC. Now, I personally don't think he'll be here. He's too talented. However, there's mixed reviews on him. I believe he's a true outside X receiver. I saw him make some of college football's most spectacular catches last year. He's a red zone threat. He can moss smaller DBs. He's standing at 6'4". However, he's got some concerns with his size, that being his weight. He's a little bit skinny. He's got a limited route tree, and he had some focus drops last year as well. But if you can get his talent level in round 5, you got to sprint that pick in if you're the Indianapolis Colts. And finally, in the 6th round, I'm going to grab Eric Gentry, the linebacker who is also out of USC. Listen, I don't know where you're going to play him, but at 6'6", he is an absolute weapon from the linebacker spot with his length. He can make plays with his size and his speed. He just isn't physical and lacks strength because he only weighs 225 pounds, but the versatility he can potentially bring is super intriguing and worth a shot in round 6. All of these moves combined put the Indianapolis Colts in a great spot to compete for a Super Bowl now and in the future. And even if the Colts don't make the Super Bowl next year, I still like the direction of this franchise. Shane Steichen has proven he can coach. This roster is good. So if Daniel Jones can come back and look like the player he was before the injuries, they're going to be a really, really good team. And the head of the snake is Carly Gordon Ursay. And everything I've seen from her has been extremely impressive. I have absolutely loved it. And when your ownership is good, that always gives you a chance because they are more likely to put the right people in positions to succeed. I believe she will continue to do that for the Indianapolis Colts. And man, I know the AFC South is continuing to improve, but look the hell out because the Colts are not going anywhere anytime soon. But what do y'all think? Comment down below. What would you change about this plan? And do you think the Indianapolis Colts can get to the Super Bowl in 2026? For Between the Uprights, my name is Matt, and that's going to be it for me. Peace.
This has been Between the Uprights. Football is life. The rest is just details.